On the evening of January 30th, 2024, a woman named Denise Moan came home from work to her house on Upper Orchard Drive in Levittown, Pennsylvania. She had seen her husband Michael earlier that afternoon, sat down for lunch with him at home, said goodbye, and gone back to work the same way she had done countless times before. Nothing about that morning had suggested the day would be different from any other. When she walked through the front door that evening, she found Michael shot and beheaded in the first-floor bathroom of their home. A machete, a large kitchen knife, and a pair of bloody rubber gloves were on the floor nearby. Her 33-year-old son Justin had already uploaded a 14-minute video to YouTube in which he displayed his dead father and declared himself the acting president of the United States. By the time police were called, thousands of people had already watched it. This is the story of how a man with a Penn State degree, a stack of failed lawsuits, and years of escalating radicalization ended up killing the father who never stopped trying to help him. Michael Francis Moan was 68 years old and had spent more than 20 years as a civil engineer with the Geo-Environmental Section of the United States Army Corps of Engineers, Philadelphia District. He lived in Levittown, Pennsylvania, a planned suburban community just northeast of Philadelphia. Michael and his wife Denise had been married for nearly 40 years by then and had been planning to celebrate their 40th anniversary together. On the morning of January 30th, 2024, Denise came home on her lunch break and sat down at the house for a meal with Michael and their son Justin. The afternoon had felt normal. There were no arguments and there was no tension between anyone in the house. Denise returned to work for the rest of the afternoon. Nothing could have given any indication that something would go terribly wrong later. Justin David Moan was born in 1991 and grew up in that same house on Upper Orchard Drive. He attended Penn State University, graduated with a degree, and afterward moved to Colorado in search of a career. He found work at a credit union and later moved on to a position at an insurance firm in the area. Then he was fired. This was a point that would turn things for the worst in Moan's life, as from that point forward, he took professional setbacks and believed they were evidence of something being done to him. He blamed his employers, the student loan system, and even the government. After losing his job in Colorado, Justin filed a wrongful termination lawsuit against his former employer but would lose the suit. He then directed his legal efforts toward the Department of Education, filing suit over his student loan debt while representing himself in federal court. His argument was that the government had fraudulently induced him to borrow money for a college education without sufficiently warning him that he might struggle to find meaningful work afterward and be unable to repay what he had borrowed. He described the situation in his own filing, stating that he'd suffered quality of life damages. He filed at least 4 separate versions of this same lawsuit across multiple years. Every single one was dismissed. Justin became more and more radicalized against the government, believing that the system was corrupt and that it was his enemy. He believed that people who drew federal paychecks and those that kept the institution running were traitors, including his own father, who had spent over 2 decades as a civil engineer for the Army Corps of Engineers. In August 2020, Justin published an online pamphlet in which he called for everyone born in or after 1991 to carry out what he called a bloody revolution. He encouraged his readers to assassinate family members and public officials and argued that there was no peaceful solution for young Americans trying to escape what he described as debt-based enslavement, unemployment, and ultimate imprisonment. He went on to self-publish multiple manifestos over the following years calling for the violent overthrow of the United States government. He also devoted substantial time to researching the 1995 Oklahoma City bombing and studying domestic terrorist Timothy McVeigh, who killed 168 people, including 19 children, in that attack. He had researched different types of guns, how bullets penetrated parts of the body, and even instructions for constructing explosives, and would publish and distribute his ideas all over the internet. Justin self-published 8 books during this period, including one loosely modeled after himself that he titled The Second Messiah. He released original music on Spotify with song titles including They Came for Justin, Moan, and Cold War Waste Town among the offerings. A track called Momunist the Communist from a 2019 album he released himself contained lyrics about living at home and being told to pay off his debts. He had been running a YouTube channel for years before the murder, posting rant videos about immigration and what he called woke mobs. And during a pre-trial competency hearing, a defense expert revealed that Justin had also written a formal letter to the Russian ambassador to the United States in which he sought political asylum and personally apologized to President Vladimir Putin for having previously claimed online to be the Tsar of Russia. Police had actually come to the house on Upper Orchard Drive before any of this culminated in violence. Officers received information about Justin's online writings and activity and showed up in person to warn Michael and Denise about the nature of what their son was posting publicly. But because Justin had not made specific, direct, and credible threats against an identifiable individual, there was no legal basis to arrest him. He had not crossed the threshold that would have allowed law enforcement to act. Police had no idea about what he'd been researching outside of his published writings and songs. Michael and Denise continued to support their son the way they always had, providing him with a place to live, helping him financially, and working to help him find stable employment. Denise later testified that she and her husband had considered their relationship with Justin a normal one. On January 29th, 2024, one day before the killing, Justin Moan walked into a gun store in Croydon, Pennsylvania, in Bristol Township. He arrived at the store carrying a medical marijuana card, and in Pennsylvania, possession of that card disqualifies an individual from passing a background check to legally purchase a firearm. Justin surrendered the card on the spot, handed it directly to the store employee, and immediately completed the legal purchase of a handgun along with an optic scope, a grip, and ammunition. The total for the purchase was over $1,300. That same night, he sat down and wrote in a notebook that investigators would later recover from the family home. The notebook contained 2 entries, which he had labeled Plan A and Plan B. Plan A described what he called a citizen's arrest of his father on charges of treason. Plan B was considerably more direct about what would follow if Plan A did not proceed as intended. Investigators also found entries elsewhere in the notebook labeled Boom and Slice. The following morning, January 30th, 2024, Justin told his father that he was placing him under arrest for treason. Michael Moan, who was described at trial as an experienced martial artist, told his son that he would kill him before allowing that to happen and reached for the gun. Justin shot his father in the head in the bathroom of the family home. The forensic pathologist who performed the autopsy, Dr. Ian Hood, testified at trial that the gun had been positioned at least a foot away from Michael when the fatal shot was fired, and that Michael had shown no defensive injuries indicating the shot was fired before he had the opportunity to fully react. Justin then used the machete and the kitchen knife to decapitate his father. Then he sat down and began to record. The video Justin uploaded to YouTube was 14 minutes long and titled Moan's Militia, Call to Arms for American Patriots. In it, he held up his father's head on 2 separate occasions, identifying him by name as his father, as a federal employee of more than 20 years, and as a traitor to the country. He declared himself the acting president of the United States under martial law. He called for then-President Joe Biden to step down from office immediately. He demanded the abolition of what he described as woke and gender ideology and propaganda and called for the dissolution of the Federal Reserve. He offered $1 million bounties on prominent federal officials, including then-Attorney General Merrick Garland and former Attorney General William Barr. He told his viewers that if they had a non-military federal employee anywhere in their family or social circle, they should make it their New Year's resolution to kill that person. He also named a specific federal judge who had previously ruled against him in a civil lawsuit, provided that judge's home address on camera, and openly called for the judge to be killed. Throughout the recording, he appeared to be reading from a prepared script. When he was done, he uploaded the video, got into his father's 2009 Toyota Corolla, and drove away from Levittown. The video remained live on YouTube for approximately 6 hours before the platform removed it. By that point, more than 5,000 people had already watched it, and an unknown number had downloaded or shared it elsewhere. Justin drove nearly 100 miles west from Levittown towards central Pennsylvania. His destination was Fort Indiantown Gap, a National Guard training center in Lebanon County that serves as the headquarters of the Pennsylvania National Guard. He arrived after dark and climbed a 20-foot barbed wire fence to breach the secured military installation. His plan, which he explained to investigators after being taken into custody, was to mobilize the Pennsylvania National Guard to take up arms against the federal government. He also told investigators that he had intended to speak with Governor Josh Shapiro directly and persuade him to join forces in the effort. Investigators had already tracked his cell phone signal to the base and were there to meet him. He was arrested on the grounds of the facility. When police took him into custody, he was carrying the handgun from the previous day's purchase, a USB drive loaded with photographs of multiple federal buildings and what appeared to be written instructions for constructing explosive devices. At his arraignment, Justin Moan was charged with first-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, possession of an instrument of crime, and firearms charges. Prosecutors later added 3 counts of terrorism under Pennsylvania's terrorism statute, charges that had never before been successfully prosecuted in the state's history. Justin pleaded not guilty to all of them. His trial opened on July 7, 2025, in the Bucks County Court of Common Pleas before Judge Stephen A. Core. Justin had chosen a waiver trial, giving up his right to a jury, and the decision on his guilt would rest with the judge alone. During the week-long trial, prosecutors played the full 14-minute YouTube video in open court from beginning to end. They described the killing in their opening statement as something straight out of a horror film, calling it a cold, calculated, and organized plan specifically designed to intimidate and terrorize federal workers across the country. Denise Moan took the stand and testified about discovering her husband's body and described the relationship between Justin and Michael as a normal father-son relationship in the period before the killing. Her neighbor James Carnley also testified. Carnley had been with Denise when she made the discovery and had called 911. Justin's defense attorneys chose not to give an opening statement of their own. Justin took the stand himself and testified for approximately 2 hours. He told the court that his father had threatened him and reached for the gun first, and that what he did constituted self-defense. He described the citizen's arrest attempt as a legitimate and lawful course of action. He showed no remorse at any point in the proceedings. Bucks County District Attorney Jennifer Shorn noted his demeanor throughout and described it as reflecting a complete and utter lack of remorse from the first day of trial to the last. On July 11, 2025, Judge Core delivered his verdict, guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder and 2 counts of terrorism. Justin Moan became the first person ever convicted of terrorism under Pennsylvania's terrorism statute, a threshold no defendant had ever crossed in the state before. He was sentenced immediately to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole, with additional time on the remaining charges. Before the sentence was formally handed down, members of Michael Moan's family were given the opportunity to speak to the court. Denise told Judge Core that her entire family had been violated on every level by what Justin had done to his father and by the decision to broadcast it publicly online for thousands of strangers to watch before anyone had been told Michael was dead. She described the last time she had seen him alive, the ordinary Tuesday lunch they had shared at home, the goodbye at the door as she headed back to work for the afternoon. As for Justin Moan, he will spend the rest of his life behind bars for the brutal murder of his father and his attempts to incite an insurrection.
Charged with murder and abuse of a corpse, Justin Moan is jailed without bail and is the cause of grief.
Oh, I can't. I really can't understand it.
Justin's brother told the court that his brother blamed all of his losses and events that didn't go his way on others and never took responsibility for his own shortcomings. In court, Justin Moan did not apologize for killing his father.
He was adamant, no remorse, no guilt.